Today we're going to do cheese crust pizza, and hopefully, hopefully it's a good deal. It sounds pretty good. So we're going to preheat to 350 degrees, and I'm going to go ahead and do convection because I think it works better. I do not want 330. I want 350. Convection. All right. Non-stick liner on a cookie sheet. So we're going to use a Silpat. Silpats. My wife loves them, and I totally understand why. Silicone baking sheet keeps all of your crap from sticking. Super easy to clean. Let's see. Medium bowl. Mozzarella cheese. Parmesan cheese, garlic powder, basil, salt, and eggs. That doesn't sound too complicated. Alright, let's do shredded mozzarella, which we got in here. Got a bunch of parm, garlic powder and basil. Garlic powder and basil. Prefer oregano, so I'll probably add some oregano because I like oregano better than basil. Alright, dash of salt, 2 eggs. 2 eggs. Yeah, so on low carb, you go through eggs like there's no tomorrow. So just plan on buying a couple dozen a week. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and do the eggs first because I want to be able to get them nice and beaten before I put everything in, because obviously the more stuff you have in there, the harder it is to deal with. I have a tendency, yes, it looks disgusting, but I like to stick my fingers in here and get out all the whites, because the whites are really good for you. I also wash my hands all the time because, you know, I get kind of a freak like that, I guess. Anyway, we need to get 2 tablespoons of grated parm. So let's go ahead and pull that up. 2 tablespoons of grated parm. This is almost empty, so we may be able to get 2 tablespoons out of here. What did I just say? Can't remember anything. Let's go ahead and get these eggs beaten up. The problem is if you put the cheese in with these eggs, you have a problem right away because the cheese will keep you from being able to beat the eggs together, so that causes a pretty significant issue, being able to get that stuff in there. So that's 1. That's kind of 2. Almost 3. Not really. Obviously we'll be using this later. Okay. 1/4 teaspoon of garlic powder. That's not very much garlic powder. That's kind of lame. Whatever. We'll go ahead and follow the recipe this first time. Let's see if we change it next time. I like garlic and I like oregano. Okay. 1/2 teaspoon of dried basil. And again, I'm going to go ahead and add some oregano because I like oregano better than basil. Basil just kind of, I don't know, it's kind of like you're eating the forest or something. It's fine, but it's not nearly as good as oregano. Oregano is more like happiness or something. Basil's kind of like, yep, I want to eat a tree. Oregano, so much better, so much better. Okay. Okay, so dash of salt, 1/8 teaspoon. I don't know. That's about 1/8 teaspoon. Let's see here. Garlic powder, basil, eggs, mozz and parm. So mozz, 1½ cup. Let's see what we've got in here. this is obviously shredded, so you kind of wonder when they say 1.5 cups if it's, hey, do you really mean 1.5 cups? Because there's a lot of air in there when it's shredded. So I think I'm just going to put all that in there. It might be 2 cups shredded, but if it's a little bit too much cheese, I don't think anybody's going to die. Okay, so now we just get this all mixed up. Yeah, see, that egg would have been almost impossible to get all handled in this. Because if you look at it, you know, the egg is, how would you like to try to beat an egg in that? It's not a lot of fun, because it's really, like, the idea here is you're using the egg as kind of the binder for that stuff. Give it a little bit of nice bounce and whatnot. Now, I've got parm chunks because, you know, well, because parm, if you leave it in the refrigerator like we do, well, a lot of times it'll start clumping up, especially if you're then turning around and dumping it over hot pizza or hot spaghetti or something like we do. That water will get in there and clump it up too, so you do have to, I am having to kind of mash up this parm a little bit beyond what I normally would need to do if you had, like, say, freshly shredded parm, which I don't have because we buy the cheap stuff at Aldi because, hey, why not? Save a little bit of money, and in my view at least, the pre-powdered parm is pretty consistent. Obviously, if you can get fresh parm, that's better, but hey, trying to save money like me, you buy the cheap stuff from Aldi. Alright, so that's that stuff. Stir very well for at least a full minute, and the reason you have to stir it for a full minute is because the eggs won't get broken up. So if you just beat the eggs first, you won't have to do it that long. Okay, sheet of plastic wrap to press the dough down evenly into your pan, blah blah blah. Center rack, we're at 265, so we still have a couple of seconds for this other stuff. We can set that in there. Get some plastic wrap. Now the other thing I can do is use the other Silpat to push this down. So since we have 2 Silpats, so I think I'm going to go ahead and do that. Use this set of Silpat so I don't have to waste the other. I'm just going to use this to glom it out onto the rack here. Yep, super exciting. Alright. I drive my wife crazy because I try to get all this stuff out of there. Anyway, alright, so we have the second Silpat. We're just going to use that to kind of mash this guy down. And obviously, you use this to make it as thick or thin as you want, because we have only a certain amount of width in this cookie sheet, and on this other Silpat, we're going to go ahead and make it a little bit longer than it is wide, because I really don't want to get it all the way to the edge here. So I'm going to push it kind of up into this corner here. Alright. Obviously, yep, there we go. Same deal up here. I'm going to mash it up into that direction. Alright. So there we go. So the Silpat, the second Silpat here. I lost a little bit of stuff in there, you can see, but it's really easy to clean. That's the beauty of it. So this is what we got. Looks kind of like a bunch of cheese on a plate, and that's what it is exactly. So now that we've got this all in here, we're good to go. We're at 320. I'm going to count that in there. Go ahead and slap that bad boy in there. And it says 20 minutes, so we're going to put it in for a timer. 20 minutes, and we'll come back in a second. Okay, so this is saying that we're done, and been at 350, and I would say that we are definitely done, because it is brown on the outside. I would even go so far as to say it's slightly burned, but personally I don't care. I'm not afraid of caramelization. Alright, so the recommendation on this recipe is to use a rack, and I would agree with this. Generally speaking, this stuff is kind of gummy if you cook it strictly on the silpats. So I'm using these special racks that I got for my wife because I thought they were pretty cool. So what we're going to do is we're just going to drop it on there so it's exactly the right size. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to get another one of these racks, and then I'm just going to set it inverted. I'm going to go ahead and try not burn myself, which is always a good thing when you're cooking. I'm just going to flip it over. Now the hot one will be on top. And it of course does not have the thing. And notice Silpat kept everything super clean. So I don't even have to wash that one. Shh, don't tell my wife. Okay, so the Silpat comes off. And as you can see, it's stuck there. So we're going to slap the Silpat in the sink. We'll wash that off here in a second. But the idea here is now we're going to put the pizza toppings on top of this guy. And so this will be our pizza. And what I'm going to use for my pizza sauce is actually spaghetti sauce that we had last night. So it's just leftover spaghetti sauce that we made, homemade spaghetti sauce. My wife's recipe is fantastic. So we're just gonna take some spaghetti sauce. We're going to spread it on here. And this actually has meat in it, so we don't have to use a ton of extra meat on top. But of course, you know, come on now, who doesn't want extra meat on top? So we're going to go ahead and put this guy on there. The unfortunate thing is I'm going to use all the spaghetti sauce on this pizza, so I can't have spaghetti squash spaghetti later on this week, but I'll survive. We've got more of it in the freezer anyway. Alright, so now we just spread this guy around. Painting with spaghetti sauce. Okay, now this is kind of chunky, and the idea is that obviously everything's going to kind of spread around a little bit whenever you cook it. Obviously, this is still cold and kind of congealed a little bit. So that's our spaghetti sauce that we're using for topping. Now, obviously, you could just make tomato sauce or whatever, but that should be fine. And then they do say that we should go up to 400 degrees. Now, because I'm using convection, you normally can cook either, I guess, a little bit shorter or a little bit cooler, but I'm going to go ahead and leave it at 400 on convection just because I think it makes my oven more even. And anyway, and the idea here is we want it says that we need to let the crust cool, but because I did that trick, I don't have to do that. Normally you'd want to let it cool, because otherwise when you try to take it out of the pan, it's going to get all floopy and it'll be hard to do, but because I did that flip trick, it works fine. And as you can see, it's staying structurally sound here. So anyway, we're going to leave it, we're going to let it cook here in a second, but before we start with that, I am going to go ahead and I'm going to put on some, I think I have some banana peppers, there we go. Some banana peppers. I think I have another jar of those somewhere for jalapenos. I guess I'll stick with banana peppers. I'm feeling banana peppery today. And then we're going to use pepperoni. This of course is a Walmart brand because, you know, nobody died from eating cheap pepperoni, I guess. And it really, when you slap it on a pizza like this, you're not even going to really notice it much. So I go ahead and pretty much just cover the whole thing in pepperoni. Can't stand it when you go to a pizza place and they don't give you enough pepperoni or enough meat in general. Now another thing, that if I didn't have the spaghetti sauce in here, I'd probably go ahead and use the, oh, we're at 400 now. I would go ahead and use the I totally lost my train of thought. I would use turkey sausage from like some of the frozen turkey sausage, because that's a nice, cheap, easy thing, because you can just leave it in the freezer all the time. This pepperoni is nice too, because you don't have to leave it, you don't have to put it in the refrigerator or anything, you can just leave a bag out and then always have it available for when you decide you need to get some pizza. The downside of this recipe, I find, is that you go through a crap ton of mozzarella, because we haven't gotten to the cheese yet. So you go through a crap ton of mozzarella, so you need to have mozzarella on hand, and you need to have, in my opinion, you need to have mozzarella and pepperoni, because that's kind of the staple toppings at least. So as you can see, we just have a stupid amount of pepperoni on this pizza, because that's the right way to make a pizza. And go ahead and put those back in there. No, I don't really need to. We could just put all of them on there, but we'll save some for the next pizza. And to be clear, when you open that pepperoni, you do have to put it in the refrigerator. Don't try to leave it unrefrigerated, because it will be something you really don't want to eat very quickly. All right. So again, washing my hands all the time, because it's better than the opposite, right? Okay. So cheese. I've got some mozzarella. This was actually frozen, but I set it out to defrost a little bit. Because the crust is made out of cheese, I generally don't put quite as much on the top, but you know, you can't not put cheese on the top of a pizza, because that would just be wrong. This, because it was so spread out, probably could use a little bit more, so I'm gonna get some more cheese, because come on now, not enough cheese. So I'm gonna go ahead and get some more. This stuff hasn't defrosted for the last 20 minutes, so this will be frozen, which means it'll be a little bit less awesome, but I'm sure a 400 degree, oh, this is really not that weak, I promise. Okay, so let's go ahead and get some of that on there. Spread this around a bit. It is a little bit more difficult when it's frozen to get it to do what you want. But all right. Yes, I like a lot of cheese on my pizza. Okay, so that's that. I'm gonna go ahead and slap on these hot pepper rings. Just put them a little bit. One every couple slices, maybe. Because we're probably going to have to do this Little Caesar style. Oh wow, there's not as many of those as I'd hoped. I may have to get some jalapenos in there. Alright, well, I guess we'll pretend like that's good enough. Yep, those are spicy. Alrighty. Let's see here. So that's our toppings. I'm going to go ahead and pre-parm this a little bit. I do like that parm flavor. It's nice. There's kind of that mustier kind of feel to it. So we'll pre-parm it just in case you forget to parm later. A little loopy. All right. Here we go. Get some parm up in here. All right. So now, according to the recipe here, we have. How are we doing? 10 minutes. All right. So probably gonna need to check it at 5 and see where we go from there. So timer 1, 5. All right. Thanks. Check back in a few. Okay. So a moment of truth. We've got a pizza here. Let's see how it looks. It's looking pretty good. Pretty good. Still seems a little bit floopy there, which is a little bit unfortunate. You can see that it's not quite as hard around the edges. That obviously the edges are going to be really crispy. Love that. I love just burn crispy cheese. Anyway, we're going to let that set for just a second, cool off a little bit, and then we're going to have to move it to a cutting board to be able to actually cut it. So we'll just take a drink and then come back in a second. That's not the flavor of pain. mean, if I can't get enough peppers on my pizza, I might as well ingest that flavor some other way, huh? Let's put this away. Let's cut this bad boy up. We'll need scissors. Alright. Let's see how we did. Still not as crispy in the middle as I would have hoped. Probably going to still need to be a knife and fork, which is unfortunate because I prefer to eat pizza like a barbarian, like you're supposed to eat pizza. Yeah, see, it's a good thing I got my pepper fix the other way, since this is not working the way I'd hoped. Alright. Well, that's not too bad. Not too bad. Let's see here. Yep, it holds up pretty good. It's not crisp. It's pretty good. Pretty good. I'd say it's definitely a keeper. The spaghetti though is so flavorful that it's almost like handheld lasagna at this point. So I think if you were to do this, you probably need to do just some regular tomato sauce or something. I'd say you could probably use crushed tomatoes if you want it to be brighter, but definitely good. Definitely edible and strong enough to eat with your hands. Didn't have to use my knife and fork. Good stuff. I'll tell you what, I gotta eat this pizza. So, thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.